All right. So hopefully, did you guys get something saying we're recording? Anyone get a thing that says we're recording?
Yes, I got it.
Thank you. Okay, just making sure. All right. Oh, 102. I think that we will just start moving into our meeting. So as I'm sorry to say, it is just me facilitating today. I think Tom got called to the marsh in one of the marshes in LBI and is going to try to join us and help facilitate the meeting from the cove. I forget what the name of the cove is, but I don't know that he will be able to make it. So it's really just me, and I will be doing a marsh emergency. Wasn't that the best video, Randy? If you can drop the link, if anybody hasn't seen the TNC video, the marsh emergency, I just think it's fantastic. It definitely has not gotten broadcasted enough. So if anybody has the link and can drop it and share some TLC publicity, I think that would be great. And maybe I'm just going to say it out loud too. I think Samantha is on, maybe the marsh makeover. Yes. Maybe we can put that into our next blog post or newsletter post.
Absolutely. I'd love to see what it is. I need to see it.
Oh my gosh, if you haven't seen it, I think it is the most phenomenal thing. Just saying. When I was out at the marsh just yesterday or the day before, I was definitely thinking of wishing I had a martini on to enjoy. Anyway, all right, so we are recording. I'm going to remind you one more time to please enter your name and affiliation in the chat. And with no further ado, I'm going to remind you guys, some of these slides are here just to help me be able to remember what I'm doing today. So this is our NJCRC mission, and one of the slides that our great communication staff has been, not staff, volunteers have been working on helping us with for future presentations. And I did a poor job of dropping that agenda in. It's a little fuzzy, but as soon as we get Ed started on his welcome, I will drop a fresh agenda into the chat for you guys. So if Ed, you could get us started, I would greatly appreciate it. And just, I'm sorry, I'm going to remind everybody to go on to mute. Actually, I'm going to mute everybody, and then I am going to unmute Ed as soon as I can find him, or if he wants to unmute himself. There we go. I think we should be good. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you, Laura, and good afternoon to everybody. Thank you for making time in this pre-holiday week in your busy schedules to join us for this hopefully very valuable meeting. First of all, I want to issue a little statement that Tom Harrington and Laura Kerr do a great job of doing the behind-the-scenes support for our staff and for New Jersey Coastal Coastal CRC. Got me a little tongue-tied here, Laura, but I don't think when we do the Coastal Resilience Collaborative, we give enough credit to you and Tom for all the behind-the-scenes planning and effort and logistics you do. And we understand once in a while when competing variables and priorities cause one of you not to be present for something. But today, I think we've listened to our partners, and we really have put together an agenda which meets the needs as expressed by our members. And we'll once again have a very important update from New Jersey DEP, and Becky Hill is with us. Becky and Nick Angerone are always present at all of our leadership and general partnership meetings to provide updates so that everyone involved in our organization knows what DEP is doing, what they've accomplished, and what they're looking to do, so we can all be informed and participate. And secondly, today we're going to hear status reports from our 7 work groups. And as I said to Laura during our planning meeting a couple of weeks ago, and also prior to this meeting, it's really beneficial for our members to hear this, because we have really expanded our role in terms of working with the communities and having relationships built among our partners to push forward on certain vital initiatives that coastal resilience needs at this time. And I think it's very nice to hear from the groups and to find out what they're doing, and to give them an opportunity to solicit additional information and membership. And also, one of the things we've talked about for a few meetings was introducing and giving our new partners an opportunity to give them visibility and explain why they joined, what they can offer, and how they intend to help us. That is very important. And then, of course, our invited speaker today is Darlene Finch from NOAA. And Darlene has been gracious enough in the past and today to give us the new funding opportunities, past accomplishments, and where NOAA looks to move to next. And I think that's important for all of us as we set our goals. So with that in play, Laura, thank you very much for all you do, and we'll move forward with the agenda.
Thank you so much, Ed. Appreciate the shout out as well. We are going to move right into our updates, our progress reports. Hopefully everybody got the agenda that I dropped into the chat. If not, you can send me a little message. And first we're going to go to Becky. And to any of our presenters, please let me know if you need to share anything, and I will give you permission.
Thanks, Laura. I second what Ed said. You guys are great, and we always appreciate all the hard work you do, and partnering with the CRC is always such a pleasure on any of the work we do with you all. So I'm just going to jump into it. I only had a couple updates, one of which I'm not going to go into as much detail as possible, knowing that Darlene is on the call with us. So I don't want to steal her thunder and all the great information that she's going to share. But one thing I was going to note, that one of the funding opportunities that NOAA did release, the Climate Resilience Regional Challenge, we are looking at this and are intending to submit a significant proposal from DEP. So we're considering exactly what our options are and what that proposal might look like. But we know we are going to be interested in partnering and trying to figure out how exactly to do that. So if you are interested, please reach out to me. I'll put my email address in the chat once I'm done talking. But yeah, we're definitely looking for proposals, likely in the implementation of resilience and adaptation actions track. There are 2 tracks in the NOFO that came out, and letters of intent are due August 21st. So the second update is that, again, through another funding opportunity from NOAA, we have dollars to help DEP support and develop restoration projects around the state. So we are looking to use that capacity funding to hire a restoration project coordinator. So if you all have anyone that you know that would be great for that role, the role would be collaborating across DEP's various programs, from Fish and Wildlife to Division Science and Research, to my office, to with our regulatory folks, and just coordinating all of our efforts so that we would then be able to coordinate better with external organizations as well on development of getting restoration projects from design or through like concepts that are in our resilience action plans that we're supporting municipalities and regions to undertake through completion. So we're working with a couple of you on other proposals that we're all hoping get funded. So the idea would be this person could help support a variety of those efforts. But the funding is good for 5 years. So if you have any ideas, please reach out and let us know. And that was it, Laura. I only had those 2 updates.
Excellent. Thank you, Becky. Are you, I'm just going to ask if anybody has any questions for Becky. Like she said, we always like money. So thank you for sharing funding opportunities, but we also have Darlene who will be sharing more.
Yeah, so Darlene will cover, I'm sure, a lot more information.
All right. And please feel free to come off mute because I may not see you put your hand up if you do. So, all right. So moving on, we're going to move right into our work group updates. As we know, our partners are making things happen in these work groups. And if ever you want to start a work group, please reach out. All we need is a great idea to get started. Then we get it approved by our leadership, and we'll hear about one of our newer work groups in a moment. But first, we're going to start off, we're going alphabetical. So Beneficial Use Learning Network, Adriana, if you could let everybody know what's going on.
Sure. Thanks, Laura. I've missed a couple of meetings, so I appreciate the opportunity to give folks an update on what we've been doing in the Beneficial Use Learning Network. We have been quiet on the webinar front. Those of you that have joined or expressed interest, I apologize for that. Stay tuned. We'll be reinitiating our webinars later this summer into the fall. We've really been focused on preparing to working with Stevens and Monmouth, actually, Laura and Tom, to synthesize everything that's been learned so far and shared through the webinar series. So you can find all of our previous webinars on the NJCRC website under the videos tab. I can drop that link in if Laura doesn't have a chance to. So if you want to catch up on all the information that's been shared verbally by partners that have done beneficial use projects on the ground and shared that wisdom, we've been working to synthesize 2 different documents to kind of share that wisdom and represent what's been known so far, what's been tried. And so we're narrowing the end. We have some really great drafts, and we'll hopefully be rolling that out, hopefully have an update by the next time we have another meeting of this group to share the final products. So there's 2 documents that are in process. One that's guidance on developing beneficial use projects. So we're not there where we can have true guidance, cookbook kinds of recipes yet, but we have a lot of be sure to and make sure you consider. And so synthesizing that information into the best guidance we have so far on the road to a much more prescriptive document, including focal case studies. So sharing the case studies that have been presented through webinars, really synthesizing those into fact sheets. And we're hoping those will be a really great resource for those in our state and outside of our state. A second document is the technology guide for beneficial use applications. So John Miller is pulling together, kind of looking across at the various needs that have been identified and the challenges people are meeting in producing these projects. So the using dredge material for marsh restoration specifically, and making recommendations and suggestions on what technology is out there that can help people strengthen their projects. So having that review synthesized is another resource document we're really excited to have. So we'll be rolling those out in a webinar and then resuming webinars kind of in 2 flavors, hopefully in the fall. So I'll be reconvening our steering committee probably the end of next month, and then producing our webinar schedule going into the fall. We're hoping to pull together a field trip if we can't pull it off for the fall in the spring. So we'd love to have folks come out and actually see these sites. And so that is something I'm really excited about, kind of next level now that we're in the real 3-dimensional world again, to get out and see how these sites are doing and really have those on the ground discussions. So that's one flavor, continuing for practitioners really doing these projects to be a task force and to work together on developing these projects, especially as they're rolling out new projects with all of the IIJA funding and the wonderful funding resources that are out there. So that's kind of the expert track. There's also a training opportunity, so that now that we have some of this information really synthesized in documents, working to get some information out there and training for folks that maybe haven't done these types of projects before. So we're still feeling out potential partnerships for that avenue, but I'll definitely keep this group in touch with it. So really appreciate all the support we've received from NJCRC, and it's really helped shine a light on the successful projects here in New Jersey and the successful collaborations kind of throughout the East Coast. So I'm really proud of the reach of this project as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Adriana. And I think Adriana will put her email in the chat if anybody wants to reach out to her about the work group. Next up, this is our newest work group. So officially at the beginning of June, the CHARM work group was voted in place by our leadership committee. CHARM standing for Coastal Habitat and Aquatic Resource Research and Monitoring. It's a giant mouthful, still learning it. But let's let's hear about it a little bit more from Danielle if she's on.
Yeah, I'm here, Laura. Can I
Excellent.
share a screen?
Yes, let me stop sharing and give, I'm gonna need to give you a permission. Anybody who knows they're gonna need to share, if you could just shoot me a chat message, that'll help me set you up a little bit sooner. I apologize again. All right, I think you should have permission now, Danielle. Maybe. Maybe not.
Just let me, This will stop. Yes. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Can everyone see this?
Oh, wait, maybe. I'm sorry, maybe I did one thing and not the other thing. Let me stop sharing mine and now you should be able to share yours. Try again, I apologize. There it's going.
Perfect. I just thought because we were a new work group, I'd have a couple visuals just to introduce the Charm work group to NJCRC. We're super excited to be a part of NJCRC, but we're a little bit different because we're not just New Jersey focused. I think that's kind of an advantage of our work group, but I'll talk about that in a second. So we're a group of restoration practitioners, researchers, and the thing we should underline here is resource managers collaborating on gaps in our data and research around coastal habitats. So trying to figure out what resource agencies want to learn from coastal habitat work and figuring out how to fund some of those data gaps and maybe even work on some of the monitoring protocols to kind of help us gauge success of lots of projects. These are the partners so far. We're really excited to be part of NJCRC because we want to expand our network. So if you don't see representation from your organization here, contact me or Jesse Murray. I'll give you our contact information at the end of this presentation. So our objectives are to facilitate collaboration and communication among these different groups. We also want to start working on developing research and data collection proposals for funding because we see this as a big gap in our region. We meet from 1 to 3 on the 4th Thursday of every month. And meetings, we have a lot of different topics, but right now we're doing a learning webinar. We were kind of influenced by the Beneficial Use Learning Network, and we thought that we could expand some of the knowledge in the region and get everyone on the same page before we started working on action items. We started the Charm group separate from NJCRC, and we started a bunch of different listening sessions from different restoration practitioners, resource managers, and academics to figure out what gaps and topics we need to be bringing to the table for this work group. So these are the top ones. Seagrasses and SAV was a big topic of discussion, living shorelines, fish habitat, navigating habitat trade-offs, that comes up almost every meeting, streamlining reviews of permits, standardizing monitoring and data collection and success metrics across different coastal habitat restoration work, novel restoration tactics. And then the big one, funding research gaps and monitoring, and trying to do it like on a landscape level, not just like project by project, but really strategically thinking, what are our regional gaps in data collection and research? Monitoring is different than research, right? We collect monitoring data for permitting requirements or to monitor like how successful a project is. But there isn't a lot of research that's really getting at some of the questions around, does this marsh habitat project influence fish communities, or is this living shoreline project beneficial or negatively impacting seagrass? So that's kind of what I mean by research gaps. Okay, so I already said this, we had our listening sessions, and now we're into our learning webinar series. We're just taking stock of what's been done, what tools and resources are out there. That's what we're doing this summer. And in the fall, we'll start working through some of our parking lot items and getting at some of those deliverables that I mentioned. NJCRC and Laura Kerr and the crew are awesome. They have posted our webinars on the NJCRC site under the Charm work group. So you guys have access to everything that we've had a webinar on so far. So in January, we started talking about seagrasses, just the biology and basics. We moved into some of the regulations and management around seagrasses and SAV. And we just wrapped up our Living Shorelines webinar series. We had some great speakers come from other regions to talk about work that's being done like in Chesapeake Bay and Delaware Bay. And we just wrapped up our Living Shorelines Novel Tactics webinar in June. And we realized that we need more discussion. So we have decided to postpone the learning webinar series. And in July, we're going to, this is the website with our videos. We're going to have a Living Shorelines and SAV discussion. It's not going to be a webinar. It's not going to be recorded. It's just going to bring all the members together to work through some of the things that we've learned and develop that parking lot list of action items to take in the fall. And then we're going to really strategically think about how we want to develop our marsh restoration learning webinar. And NJCRC, we could use your help. So if you are interested in marsh restoration or have some expertise to share, please contact me. We'd love to have you come speak at one of these 3 webinars talking about the biology and basics. Really want to get into the case studies and then new restoration projects and novel tactics. I kind of think that we're going to separate this from beneficial use. Me and Adriana have had some discussions on how CHARM and the Beneficial Use Learning Network can have like a joint meeting to achieve some of our joint objectives, but that's to be determined. That will be planned this summer and will be coming at you this fall. If you have ideas, let me know. So the reason we're part of the CRC, even though we're not just New Jersey focused, we're bringing outside expertise to New Jersey, and we want all of our deliverables to be public facing, and NJCRC does a great job of making our deliverables expanded to everyone in New Jersey and anyone who has access to the website. So we really appreciate it. Yeah, and if there are things that, the science work group wants us to tackle or vice versa, because we have that resource agency focus, we kind of bring that to the table, and it's a little bit different than the ecological restoration and science work group in that way. So I'm Danielle McCulloch. I'm with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. I know most of you, but for those of you I don't know, I work in our coastal program, which is a restoration program. And I started this group with Jessie Murray. I'm not sure if she's on the call. If she is, she can introduce herself. Maybe not, but she's
I'm here.
Oh,
Yep.
Go ahead, Jessie.
Sorry about that. No, just had some technical difficulties there. Hi, yeah, Jessie Murray with NOAA Fisheries out of the Habitat and Ecosystem Services Division based out of Sandy Hook. So thanks, Danielle, for the good introduction of everything that we've been doing. We've been really excited. It's been a really great group. It's really a really positive group too. And again, we're looking forward to working with you guys as well.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. And we're looking to not just have me and Jessie kind of steer this group. We'd love leadership from other agencies and other organizations. So if you're interested in joining the CHARM and also want to help us steer how we use CHARM to achieve NJCRC objectives, just contact one of us. And yeah, we'll probably be discussing this at the next meeting. So if you need an invite to that, also email me. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much, Danielle. Next up, we're going to go right into our communications work group. I'm going to invite, I think Samantha Kreisler is going to talk to us about it. Yep, I see her.
Hi.
I'm going to go back to sharing my screen, but I don't think you need to, right?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. There we go. I'm at Sandy Hook today, so my internet might get unstable. So I'm going to try and be brief and quick. My name is Samantha. I'm filling in for Carl today. Carl and I have been working on the NJCRC website, and we added a news and updates section that has been on the website, and that's for articles related to the work of the partnership. And as a start, we kind of added 3 posts. The first is kind of a roundup of recent work group activities from members and a summary of the new inland flood protection policy coming to New Jersey in July, and a post that includes a link to the fall newsletter. And we created this as a way to help us work with the newsletter in the future. We also created a new webpage that is going to house the webinar recordings produced by the Charm Network, which you just heard from Danielle about. There are currently 4 webinars, and you can find them by clicking videos and drop down on the website. I'll put that link in a second. Our work group has continued to build the coffee chat website page with the new content, and the most recent video from the June 7th coffee chat, building resilience partnerships within the Department of Defense, is up there as well. And I'm sure Amanda will talk about that during her update. And Carl and I recently met to perform, to work on the newsletter format, and it's going to be more dynamic on an internet platform versus a PDF platform. So we're really excited to be working on that and get that newsletter out as soon as we can. So thanks, Laura, and thanks everybody. And I'll get those links in there right now.
Thank you so much, Samantha. We appreciate all of the good work that you guys are doing to help share all of the amazing stuff that we're producing on our work groups, and also just sharing that information with all of the partners and outside of our partnership. So appreciate that very much. Next up, I believe, is our conference planning work group. So is Joe, I remember now, as I said, people were dropping off left and right from the meeting. I think Joe is one of the ones that maybe isn't able to, or was going to join us a little bit late. So I'm just going to give a quick update on our conference planning work group. Right now, we have been targeting a conference in early March, roughly the week of March 11th, I believe. Many of the details are still up in the air. There's a lot of energy, though, I can say, to create a fantastic conference. We're moving between a 2 and 3 day event, probably at Monmouth University, and hopefully including some mobile sessions that can take a look at many of the ecological restoration sites that are happening across our state. More information will definitely be coming as soon as we get a date set and a location set. We'll definitely be sharing those dates with you guys. So keep an eye out for that. And if anybody loves planning a conference, we're open to having more people join us in that planning process. Like I said, we've got a great motivated group of people working on it right now. But more hands make it easier, that's for sure. So I'm sure as we get closer, we'll be asking for more help as well. But I think I'm going to leave that there, and we're going to move on to our next work group, which is the Ecological Restoration and Science work group. And I think Meredith is going to give us an update.
Yes, you changed that slide very quickly. Yes, so I will be brief. We had 2 meetings last week, one for the Coastal Restoration Resilience Library and the other for the Restoration News. So we are actively working on both of those items. I'm sure you've all gotten 2, possibly 3 emails from me nudging you about Restoration News content. So yeah, we're actively planning out what articles we're going to include, the structure of that, working also on the outline for the library. Both of those should be complete by the end of the year. And that's really it, but we're making good progress. So please contribute to the Restoration News. I'm done.
And if you want to drop a location where they can send contributions or ideas in the chat, that would be super.
Okay. Yeah, I sent out link. I sent out an email. I'll put my.
That would only. I don't think it would have gone to the full partnership. So if just the work group, probably.
That's true. You're
so if
right.
There's something that you
I'll
want,
put it. I'll
even
put
if it's
it
an
in
email address
in the chat. And I also want to give you and Tom a shout out for all that you do and everything that you juggle. You guys are awesome.
Thank you, Meredith. All right. Hopefully everybody keeps telling me I'm rocking it. So I'm just going to keep going with that. And we're going to move on to our municipal work group. This is one I did not rock. Alyssa, I believe, is going to give us an update. Alyssa Cummins from Brick Township, not Angela, who is also out in the marsh, I think, with Tom.
Good afternoon. So we had our first municipal work group meeting last Friday. It was not so greatly attended. I'd love to see more people join the municipal work group, but we first just collaborated on some general issues we thought would make lives easier for municipalities who want to achieve resilience or maintain resiliency. They were mostly targeted towards suggestions we had regarding DEP regulations and permitting, and perhaps expanding some of the things that are open and available to single family homeowners to municipalities and quasi-governmental agencies. Just a quick suggestion is the ability to construct a revetment along a shoreline. If you want to protect your house, you can get a general permit. If you want to protect a road because you're a municipality, you have to do a compliance statement and apply for an individual permit with a difference in like $30,000 in fees. Not to mention the expense of going through it. So these were just the suggestions we had. We're open to more suggestions if more people would like to join our group and give us your ideas and thoughts or things that you've done to make your community more resilient. And I will drop my email in the chat for anybody who's interested in joining us or wants a more elaborate explanation of what we've been discussing so far.
I might also add, Alyssa, thank you. Maybe even if you can talk up our municipal work group to any municipal contacts that you may have. We have been sending out some letters to mayors and administration, trying to bring them into the work group, which has worked a little bit, but sometimes we know everybody's busy. So if somebody wants to know somebody that they can encourage to be part of this new fantastic work group, that would be awesome.
Hey, Laura, do you mind if I jump in too, just to make the plug?
Oh yeah, go for
One
it.
of the things we talked about in the municipal work group is Alyssa mentioned it, is we have and Becky had mentioned it as well. We've been working with St. Barnegat Bay to come up with a regional sediment plan for the municipalities. And we put in through St. Barnegat Bay letters of support to try to get, Becky, this is our plug for funding it, to fund us for the regional sediment plan for St. Barnegat Bay. So hopefully that increases our chances. But I think that's the positive of working with one another, is by working together. That came from something that I do with the BAs in Ocean County. And then when this group came about, we plugged it through that. So the more people we can get in and support it and try to get it up the flagpole to try to get that funded, you know, that's the whole idea of this group.
Thanks, Matt. I don't know if anybody else has anything they want to share, feel free to jump in, but I think I'm very excited to see where the municipal work group is heading. But on that note, we have, I think, one more work group also doing fantastic work in the technical assistance realm. So if Amanda wants to come on and talk about the coffee chat work group. Excellent.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name's Amanda Archer. I'm with the Jack Cousteau Reserve as the Coastal Trading Program Coordinator. You guys can hear me, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So the Technical Assistance Coffee Chat Work Group is obviously one of the sub-work groups that NJCRC focuses on providing technical assistance that can increase stakeholder capacity for resilience planning and implementation through this information sharing, collaboration, and networking opportunities. So in the beginning of June, the New Jersey CRC hosted a coffee chat on building resilience partnerships with the Department of Defense. So they learned about opportunities through the Department of Defense Readiness and Environmental Protection Integration Program, also known as the REPI program, and the Centennial Landscapes Partnership. This coffee chat offered a site visit to Naval Weapons Station Earl, where Meredith Comey showed some of her aquaculture restoration work. This was not an easy feat, given all of the security hoops we had to jump through, but overall it was a really good turnout and the response and a good response to get people out there. So here's a picture of Meredith showing her aquaculture tanks, and then Naval Weapons Station Earl wave tank. So with that, we are looking for others to collaborate with us in our work group. There's value in using this group to foster deeper networking opportunities. And we offer a creative space to connect to local stakeholders and create useful assistance. And the work you'd be doing in this group can lead to improved community capacity to address the evolving requirements for coastal resilience planning. If you're not interested in joining the work group, but you do have knowledge and information you would like to share in a future coffee chat, I do have a speaker form that I'll put in the chat. With this information, our work group knows that you're willing to speak on a specific topic for future coffee chats, and we can incorporate that into planning future coffee chats. So I'll put that into the chat. And then again, if you'd like to get involved, feel free to reach out to myself, Laura, or Tom. We meet the first Wednesday of each month at 11 a.m. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Amanda. We are going to move right into our work plan updates. And I'm going to just say, not as organized here as I would like to be normally. But as Ed mentioned at the beginning of our meeting, we have had several NJCRC partners who just joined in the over the last 6 months since we had our last full partnership meeting. I have invited them to do quick introductions, and I tried to list them in ways that I think they said they wanted to give an introduction. So I'm just going to ask if somebody here from Princeton Hydro wants to introduce themselves and get a quick intro on why they wanted to join the CRC, I think is what we asked them to speak to.
Sure. Hi, Laura. I'm Dana Patterson from Princeton Hydro. I'm the Director of Communications and Marketing. And I believe on the call is also Christiana Pollack, our Director of Restoration and Resilience, and Mark Gallagher, our Vice President of the firm. And so when we discovered the CRC, we couldn't believe that we weren't already involved. So we are really looking forward to get involved. Princeton Hydro is a small business consulting firm. And we're dedicated to improving our ecosystems, quality of life, and communities for the better. So that means that we work on all things natural and aquatic resource management wise, water resource engineering, regulatory compliance, with a focus on nature-based solutions like wetland restoration, living shorelines, ecological monitoring, sea level rise modeling, that type of work. And so we've been headquartered in New Jersey our whole 25 years of our company, and we work with a lot of public sector clients and organizations, from local watershed nonprofits. We have a lot of relationships with New Jersey nonprofit in the environmental space, as well as municipalities and counties, all the way up to the federal agencies like Fish and Wildlife and Army Corps of Engineers. So we just felt that it was a good space for us to be in, a place that we can continue to collaborate, and we're looking forward to working with everyone.
Thank you so much, Dana. I believe, and we are thrilled to have all of these partners. If I don't say it, I believe from somebody from Taylor, maybe Wendy.
Yep, I'm here.
Excellent.
So hi, everyone. I'm Wendy Laurent, and I'm a coastal engineer and the North Atlantic regional lead for Taylor Engineering, located in Philadelphia. With me today, I have Dr. Chris Bender, who's our coastal engineering lead, and he's joining us from down in Florida. So if you don't know, Taylor Engineering is a firm that provides leading edge solutions in the water environment. We focus our attention on water-related engineering, planning, management, and also environmental challenges, with an emphasis primarily on coastal regions. Our specialties are really beaches, living shorelines, dredging, coastal structures, and so much more. So we really align well with the mission of NJCRC, and we're excited to share our expertise and participate with NJCRC. So great to join you all.
Thank you so much, Wendy. Appreciate having you here. New Jersey Coastal Alliance, I'm not sure if they said they wanted to speak.
Yeah, Ross Kushner. I'm with the New Jersey Coastal Alliance. We're a grassroots citizens group. We're involved with beach replenishment, basically doing some research, well, actually a lot of research, and trying to get that information out to the public. We're involved here for the simple reason that, with all the groups that that are gathered here today, almost nobody is looking at these projects. Almost nobody is researching the entire Atlantic coast of New Jersey. So we're trying to encourage that, get more involved with that, and find out what's going on if we're missing anything. I mean, the Army Corps is the biggest player in projects in New Jersey, and there's very little oversight to those projects.
Thank you, Ross, for joining us today. I just realized I wasn't sharing my list. So next up is Kane University.
Hi, everyone. My name is Daniela Shebitz. I'm the chair of the Department of Environmental and Sustainability Sciences at Kane, and I'm joined by Dr. Jun Cheng, and we are really excited to be a partner now. We have a new initiative to get more involved with the coastal resilience, and we are an urban research university, so we already are very well established in urban areas that are coastal, and so this partnership really allows us to formalize that and work with you all. So honored to be here. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Daniela. Great to have you guys. And I don't believe David Fans is on. He had sent me an email earlier saying he wasn't going to be able to make it, but we truly believe he's a great addition to the collaborative as well. Jessica Kubita has been a powerhouse. I think she said she did not want to introduce herself, but glad to have her on as an individual partner. And I'm not sure if anyone from Van Cleef is here, but they also recently signed on as a resource affiliate. So just going to give them an opportunity if they want to say something.
Hi, I'm Julian Kalksman with Van Cleef Engineering. Happy to be joining the CRC, really looking forward to it. Just a quick overview. Van Cleef is a civil engineering firm. We have a handful of offices throughout the state. Specifically our Toms River office. We do a lot of work with municipalities within Ocean County. So considering that a lot of our municipalities are coastal communities, this is an area we're trying to get more involved in the coastal engineering space and grow our expertise to ultimately better serve our communities and clients. So super excited to get more involved with the CRC, kind of grow our expertise and just kind of grow connections with all of you guys as well.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
Laura,
yes.
I can introduce myself.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jessica.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I know a lot of people on this, and I'm trying to explain this group to Monmouth County, where I work now. I don't think they understand it quite yet, so that's why I'm representing myself. I lived in Lavalette for the last 51 years. I've worked for Save Barnegat Bay, the Pinelands Commission, Alliance for a Living Ocean, and now I work for Monmouth County Engineering. I've been in Monmouth County now for 15 years. So I'm doing a wetlands mitigation bank, and I do environmental permitting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think there's value for me to be here, and hopefully I can use some of my experience, even going through Hurricane Sandy. I was displaced for over a year. So I think, I can help as well as learn. So thank you.
Grateful to have you, Jessica. We're always grateful when new partners jump in and join our work group. So, and Jessica has definitely hopped into several of the work groups, which we appreciate. All right, I think it is time to move on. I apologize if I missed any of our new general partners or resource affiliates, but you can always shoot me a message and I'll make sure you get a shout out at the next one if I did miss you. This is just really a quick reminder. Sometimes we go to our partner page and like, we know we have more partners than this. So I will try to drop all of these links into the chat, but if you haven't been to our partner page of our website recently, you should go there, make sure your logo is there. And if not, email it to me at lker@stevensstudy.edu. And when we first got our technical assistance directory up, many of you provided your information to be put into that directory. We will be doing a more formal update to the original entries. Right now, we're always just want to make sure that our new partners are getting added. So this link for new additions is usually included in everybody's welcome package. But if you don't see yourself in the technical assistance directory, please feel free to visit that SurveyMonkey link when I drop it in the chat, and we'll get you added to our technical assistance directory. With that, I'm going to move right into our work plan updates because some of that's relevant to our year 3 funding. So our year 3 funding is almost completely under contract, which means we can start spending that year 3 funding. Part of that funding will go towards greater communications and more partner recruitment, which has been Tom and I went to several conferences this past fall and met a bunch of people and really started spreading the word of the NJCRC. We're grateful this year that NJAFM has again donated a table for us. So Tom and I will definitely be at the NJAFM conference with the gracious donation from NJAFM. And you all should go to the conference too, of course. I just want to also mention again, the website update and database development. So that is a lot of the database is where what Ecological Restoration and Science Work Group was talking about. We're going to be also updating our website so that we can better host all of our content, including the videos and the future database. And we're always looking for ideas for what you might want to add to that website as things that might seem like good resources. And along those lines, sometimes those great ideas need funding. So Tom and I are always looking for funding opportunities, and we invite our partners to try to come to us with ideas that they think might be possible directions that we can go as a group in applying for those opportunities. Tom and I did submit something to Sea Grant that we're very hopeful will come through for increased facilitation. And we're also support for facilitation. And we have also submitted some proposals, mostly for, or participated in some proposals, mostly for opportunities where we would serve, the NJCRC would be serving on technical advisory panels. Nothing's definite right now, as many of you know, this is proposal submittal season. So we will definitely give you more information as we get more information. I don't want to hold up because the star of the show in some ways is up next. So I'm going to pass the screen to, oh, no, this is not right. So I'm going to stop sharing because Darlene is going to take over from here. So Darlene is going to start sharing her screen. Darlene, I am grateful to have you here. And I know everybody's eager to hear what you have to say. So if you want to come off mute and introduce yourself, that would be fantastic. We can't hear you. We can see your screen. It looks like you're off mute, but for some reason, I see your mouth moving, but I can't hear you. I don't think it's just me.
No, it's everyone.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent.
I apologize. I don't use Zoom all the time. So
No worries.
one, it is great to see so many old friends that I haven't seen in a while, and it's great to meet new folks. I have one request of you, Laura. When I finish my presentation, Tony McDonald cannot ask me the first question, okay? He's not allowed.
All right. I'll
That's a
make sure he
ground
stays
rule.
muted.
Okay. or else I won't talk. All right. So I also just want to apologize. There are a lot of words on my slides. When you ask me to talk about funding opportunities, I have to use a lot of words. So my name is Darlene Finch. I am the Mid-Atlantic Regional Lead for NOAA's Office for Coastal Management. And I'm going to talk about some funding available from NOAA for coastal resilience. I'm going to talk a little bit about the past and what's going on now and project a little bit into the future. Now I got to get to the next slide. Hold on a second. Okay, slide 2. Oh, there we go. All right, so the 3 different things I'm going to focus on today, I'm going to talk about funding available from NOAA for the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. I'm going to talk about funding from NOAA for the Inflation Reduction Act. And then I'm going to, at the end, I'm going to have some things to keep in mind. None of them are going to be shocks to you, but they're just as you think about putting together some proposals, some of the things that you need to think about. So I just want to impress upon you that the amount of money that's available between the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law or bill and the Inflation Reduction Act is significant. For NOAA, compared to some of the other agencies, it doesn't look very big, but it's a lot of money for NOAA. So there's $3 billion in the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law for 5 years. So it's 5 years worth of funding to invest in habitat restoration, coastal resilience, and weather forecasting. There's also $2.6 billion in the Inflation Reduction Act to come up with a framework to protect coastal communities and restore marine resources. So there's a lot of funding out there and a lot of opportunities. I just want to remind folks that the Inflation Reduction Act is a one-time deal. The Bipartisan Infrastructure Law is 5 years of funding. IRA is 1 year. So I'm going to focus on, and you can blame this, Laura, on Tom, because this is what he said folks probably wanted to hear about, was focus more on kind of habitat restoration and coastal resilience funding, not the full suite of funds that are available. So there are 5 different pots of funding that are out there under the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law that are connected to restoration. I'm going to focus on the first 2 that are highlighted. That's habitat restoration funding, and then the National Ocean and Coastal Security Fund. Becky Hill, thank you, Becky, for the intro, but you really would know the details of habitat restoration. That money would go through the Coastal Zone Management Act, and she can talk about that a little bit more and encourage you to connect to her. Also, there's habitat restoration funding through the National Estuarine Research Reserve, and Amanda is on the phone from the Jacques Cousteau National Estuarine Research Reserves. There's also a bunch of marine debris funding, but I wasn't going to dive into that here. So there are 4 different pots of money. Okay, so overall for habitat restoration, there's about $491 billion for habitat restoration and resilience, and that is divided into two different funding opportunities. One is called transformational habitat restoration, and the other one is habitat restoration for underserved communities. There's another $400 million available for fish passage with money set aside for tribes. We haven't had any real funding out of New Jersey for that, just because of the way the language of the funding opportunity is structured. And so I want to flag it for you. I don't have a lot of details, but it doesn't tend to be something that projects in New Jersey qualify for. So I'm just going to provide a couple of perspectives here instead of giving you some details of how many applications we got. These are observations from my partners in fisheries who actually reviewed all these applications of the suite of things that came in under the transformational habitat restoration resilience. A lot of the projects that got favorably reviewed and funded were things that built up previous NOAA investments and partnerships. They like to see that the investments we made in the past were a solid way to build to the future. There was also a lot of interest and support for innovative techniques, people who were trying to do new and different restoration techniques that previously hadn't been used. A lot of emphasis on urban ecosystems and underserved communities, which is great to hear. I think that's a real challenge to figure out what are the kind of nature-based solutions you can do in urban ecosystems. lots of investments as well in building resilience to climate change and supporting recovery of endangered species. So that's what they saw in the first round of funding. I just want to remind folks that there is another 4 years of funding coming online soon. Also for that underserved communities project, similar things. They saw a lot of new approaches and a new awardees. That was something they deliberately worked hard for, was to identify new partners, people who were already working on habitat restoration projects, were involved with underserved communities and could apply for the funds, and they succeeded. So that's really good. And the applicants in this case were asked to self-identify if they were underserved. You could come in and identify and describe why you were an underserved community. That fit the criteria. So there wasn't a standard template that people had to use. And they really supported a range of different projects, from on-the-ground restoration to training programs, facilitating community participation. All of these things revolved around habitat restoration. So I just want to say this again, that was the first round of funding. The second round of funding is coming open soon, and here are a couple things you should know from our side. One is the funding available through BIL will probably be supplemented with money from the Inflation Reduction Act, which means the pot of funding that's out there will be greater than last year. We are striving really hard to make it easier for people to apply. I know that's a hard thing to say, make it easier to apply, because the applications are onerous, but to have longer application periods so you have more time to prepare, and that we don't have all the funding opportunities available at the same time, because many people apply for multiple funding opportunities. And if they're all due at once, it's really painful. So both for us and for potential applicants, we're working on that. The National Ocean and Coastal Security Fund is what most people refer to as the National Coastal Resilience Fund. That's the title in the statute, is the Ocean and Coastal Security Fund, but we fondly call it the NCRF. So that is $492 million over 5 years. And now that money is used for restoring and strengthening natural infrastructure to protect communities, while also enhancing habitat. So it has to be both of those things. It's not just for habitat enhancement. There has to be a connection to a community as well. So this money actually built into a program that was set up that we get annual appropriations for. It started in 2018. It's administered by the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation in coordination with NOAA. We provide the funding. They do a lot of the administrative work that goes, oh my heavens, my curtain just fell off my window. I do want to remind people that NFWF is the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation is really interested in this thing that they call a pipeline, a project pipeline. They have 4 different categories of funding. They start with community capacity building and planning, go all the way through restoration and monitoring. And there's definitely, there's a lot of support to see a project from the beginning all the way through to the end. So that's just something to keep in mind. So I do want to say good luck to all of you that are scrambling to try to get your applications in today, because I know they're due today. The full applications are due today. Nice, Tim, bringing the house down. Good, that was good. Okay, the awardees are typically announced in November, and there's approximately $140 million in funding for this current round. So this is just a quick drive-by. I just pulled up some of the funds that the projects that have already been funded in New Jersey. So this is like 2020 to 22. These are projects that have received funding through the National Coastal Resilience Fund. The other thing I want to flag, we also go through NFWF for this thing called the Emergency Coastal Resilience Fund. This is special disaster money that we get after big events. This is all money that came through IDA. That came to us, and then we ran an Emergency Coastal Resilience Fund competition. I want to flag this for people because, one, the timing isn't great because people are typically dealing with the emergency and the aftermath, but these are funds that don't typically require any kind of match, and they're targeted geographically, meaning you're not having to compete against everybody else in the competition or in this nation. They're just for specific parts of the country for specific problems. So that's just something to think about in the future. So that was just a bipartisan infrastructure law. Now I'm going to talk about the Inflation Reduction Act. And this is the big new piece of funding that's coming out the door. There are three big pots of funding that will be coming out on this. And the first is the Climate Resilience Regional Challenge, and that's for $575 million. These other two are not published yet. Those funding opportunities have not been released, and so I'm not going to spend any time talking about them because I can't. But I did want you to be aware that there are these two other things that we anticipate to come out on the streets, hopefully in the next month. So the Climate Resilience Regional Challenge is our latest. It's a $575 million. It's about building the resilience of communities to weather and other impacts of climate change. One of the things I want to make clear about this is many of those other projects have really emphasized nature-based solutions, and the climate, I always want to say coastal, the Climate Resilience Regional Challenge is really trying to look at building all the capacities of a community to be more resilient. So I would say it's a little bit more integrated than some of those others who really emphasize nature-based solutions. This is being run by my office, so we're all going to be crazy by the end of this year, just so you know, we're not already. There are 4 priorities for the projects we want to see under this competition. We're looking for projects that are focused on risk reduction, that really emphasize regional coordination and collaboration. It's great you have that all in your name, that helps. We're looking for an emphasis on equity and inclusion, that any of the solutions that are proposed are not just about reducing risk for certain parts of the community, but for all parts of a community, and that has enduring capacity. So it isn't just an investment that when it's done, it's done. We'd like to make sure that it has some continuation into the future, that it builds capacity, that it actually allows the community to continue to envision a better future for itself. So this is standard language. Here's the eligible applicants. You really probably don't need me to read that to you. And I do want to emphasize that there are 2 separate tracks under this funding competition. And we tried to balance the desire to help communities who have invested the time and energy to identify a path to resilience. They've come up with adaptation actions to make funding available for them to move forward, at the same time that we're trying to enable places that haven't had the funding to even put together the groups to do the planning to do that. So track 1 is regional collaborative building and strategy development. It's all about that effort, which is put the group of people together that need to be making the plans and come up with the plans. So that's the competition is 500,000 to 2 million each. You can spend that over 5 years. We're really expecting most of the proposals to get funded at about $1 million. Track 2 is implementation of resilience and adaptation actions. That's much bigger pot of money. That is between $15 million and $75 million. And we anticipate that would be, that most of those awards would be about 25 to 50 million. So, as I said, track 1 is really about building new. Well, it's enhancing existing regional scale efforts or building new ones. We're also trying to make sure that people have the capacity to do it if they haven't already taken the initiative and tried to put together a regional conversation, because many of the climate challenges can't be solved on a community by community basis. They really need to be tackled on a much larger scale. Our goal here is to move communities closer to being able to take action, not just with the funding that's available through IRA, but there are other sources of federal dollars out there that will be sustained into the future. And so we want to make sure that the communities, that the regional collaborative itself has had an opportunity to have the discussion, to come up with suggestions, to have a plan in place, and so they can springboard from that into some of these other funding opportunities. So there are some of the examples. I just want folks to be clear that those are examples of things that we're interested in funding. That is not the universe. So people have other ideas. Let's talk about it, because there are all kinds of ideas we haven't probably thought of. We were just trying to give people some suggestions on where to go. So track 2, remember, this is the big 15 to 75 million. This is really to implement coordinated adaptation efforts that really support a holistic vision for resilience and build the capacity of the communities in the region. There's an emphasis, as you'll see in a lot of these funding opportunities, on marginalized, underserved, and underrepresented communities. It's also an emphasis on tribes, although there's not a federally recognized tribe in New Jersey, so that's not as relevant. Examples of activities are acquiring vulnerable land, building natural infrastructure, implementing hybrid green and gray. We don't want to be doing gray infrastructure, but if the project has got both of those elements, that's reasonable. Strengthening or protecting public access, building the region's capacity, updating state and local codes and policies. So again, those are just some of the examples. There are a few more examples in the NOFO itself, but we just wanted to give folks suggestions and are happy to chat about it. So here's the really critical things you need to know. The first step is to submit a letter of intent. We will review the letters, and the letter of intent is relatively short. I think it's 3 to 5 pages. So we are looking for you to describe what your proposal is, what you intend to accomplish, and then those will be due August 21st of this year. And we will review them and then evaluate them, and we'll ask people to submit full applications. So it's actually a winnowing process that if you don't make it through the letter of intent phase, you won't get to submit an application. I'm just gonna alert people that we are trying to set up office hours, and I'll flag these a little later in here, where we'll just have staff available for folks to come in, ask questions, bounce ideas off them. But that'll be on our web pages, and I'll provide that in a second. Oh, look, it's great. It's on the next slide. I'm so glad I set myself up for this. Okay, so that website there has additional, okay, Ross, I'll get to you in a minute. That has additional resources, that has frequently asked questions. I also want to emphasize that NOAA is really committed to providing technical assistance for applicants, whether it's accessing the data the climate data that we have, whether it's using some of our training expertise, whether it's us connecting you to other academic experts that we're involved in. We really want to be able to figure out how to make that kind of information and data and support available to people who are interested in applying. And so we want you to ask. Don't hesitate to ask. So if you have questions, your first line is to look at the website. There's a lot of useful information up there. And then there's an email. We're getting a lot of questions from people like, am I eligible? Can I do this? Can I do that? Don't hesitate to submit questions. So do you want me to take a question from Ross or go on to this? This whole thing is, my last couple of slides here are just things I would suggest that people keep in mind when if they're putting together applications for this. What's your preference, Laura?
I would say
Oh,
just
I'll
finish
wait,
up and
no
then we can
problem.
do questions at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So some of this is not rocket science. Some of this you already know if you're applying for federal funds, but I just thought it might be useful for reiterating. It would be worth reiterating for this crowd. Make sure that this is the right competition. Any of these competitions for your proposal, we often get proposals that look like they're really trying to fit a round peg in a square hole. They don't fit. So does it fit squarely within the boundaries of the competition? Also encourage you to respond to what's being asked in the proposal and pay careful attention to the evaluation criteria. The evaluation criteria is what everybody has to read, reviewers have to read through and score you on. And so if you haven't answered the question, we can't guess at what your answer should have been. I want to encourage people to describe your proposal in the broader landscape of climate challenges and adaptation efforts in your area. Please remember, reviewers for these things aren't going to know about what New Jersey is doing, aren't going to know even where some of these places are. If you don't give us a map, we don't know. So, I just remember that the people who are being asked to review this, we're doing all we can to pull in people who understand the landscape from which the proposals are coming, but that isn't always the case. So make sure you do that. Even though match is not required, leverage and match are always a plus. We see that in NIFWIF, where they're really interested in what additional resources you can bring to the table. It's true in NOAA. You know, you don't have to produce match, but we definitely want to see that you are investing in other, you're building off other investments that are being made. And almost all these projects have other investments, whether it's your time, your facility, whatever, you know, labeling those things and calling them out is really helpful. Please make sure to invest in involving marginalized, underserved, and underrepresented communities, not just pointing to them. We get a fair amount of proposals that say, yeah, they're here. We'll talk to them at some point, which really isn't, it needs to be more than that. We are really looking for proposals that have a solid engagement approach. Now, I'm just going to say this because this is New Jersey. One of the things that's really hard is you are part of one of the most populous regions of the country. You have a lot of needs, a lot of talent, and a lot of ideas, and the competition is tough. So I'm going to suggest that if you can do something really innovative, something that you can say, I may do it here, but it's broadly applicable to other places in New Jersey, and we know that, something really big, don't hesitate. I'm not saying you have to do those things. I'm just saying it's hard to stand out in a very crowded field. And so I'm encouraging you to think really big and innovative and applicable. So I have one more slide. Be prepared to demonstrate results and impacts. Yes, people want to see that we're making on the ground impacts, that we're making a difference with the monies. And so I think you shouldn't just, I mean, we do want to build the collaborations. We want to support those efforts, but we also want to see progress. So don't forget them. And don't forget that the people who are funding it will be looking for those kinds of stories from you. As always, strive to be better prepared for the next disaster. I know that Sandy lingers in people's minds, and in some parts of New Jersey, Ida lingers, but you know, we are trying to think ahead and say these investments should not just be putting back a road that we know is going to get washed out in the next 10 years. And we're not going to fund a road, but let's not put together a project that's going to be destroyed. Think about the future and think about getting yourselves in a better position for the next disaster. Honestly, you should flatter the funder, whether it's NOAA or with NIFWIF, or I'm not saying our tools are the be all and end all. I'm just saying we want to know that you're looking at the information we have. So don't hesitate to point to those things. You don't have to give us an explanation of what they are because we know what they are, but flatter us. And go to whoever the funding entity is and ask questions, whether it's NOAA or NIFWIF. We want you to ask questions and we want you to consult on challenges. In fact, I think we ended up with language in the NOFO that said, if you can't leverage any money or you ran into real challenges doing that, please come talk to us. We want to know that. That's really valuable for us to understand that, because believe it or not, we want to do this better in the future. So we're trying to figure out lessons and we want to understand your issues. So I have two because I know there's some interest in NCRF. There's a heavy emphasis, these are NCRF specific, there's a heavy emphasis on projects that are in the pipeline. So, you know, you get preference if you've already had previous phases of your project funded, but don't forget to connect that to what else is happening in the region and make sure you focus both on community and ecosystem benefits. We see projects that go, they're heavy on one side and not the other, and it's really the linkage that's important. Okay, thank you. I hope those tips at the end, I made it a little more interesting than just the run through of the funding opportunities, but I am happy to answer whatever questions I can from my presentation. And you can always reach me. There's my email. So, okay, am I over time or am I good?
You are definitely good. Thank you so much, Darlene. That was fantastic. And I think you said that Ross, I didn't see Ross's hand up, but if Ross has a question, why don't we let him go before Tony? Tony did say he's got a million questions.
Question, he just can't.
Ross, did you have a question that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, in regard to the bipartisan infrastructure bill, I mean, what we're seeing is projects being done on the coast that are actually damaging and destroying habitat, pushing endangered species closer to the brink. And it seems kind of wild to us that they're also funding restoration. I mean, it's kind of canceling each other out. Who provides the oversight to that?
So are you suggesting projects other agencies are doing are inconsistent with what we're doing?
Well, I'm suggesting that funding from the bipartisan infrastructure bill is being used to damage and destroy coastal habitats.
So you blipped out there. I think what you're pointing, I'm going to paraphrase this. We have some inconsistent authorities across the federal agencies. Most of the money through the bipartisan infrastructure law is being channeled through existing programs. And I think that we are required to consult across the federal government about that, but it's a hard task. So whenever there are major coastal projects, we are consulted on what the impacts of that will be on endangered species, on habitats. NOAA has a role to play in that, and we often raise objections. We don't actually have veto authority on those other projects. So we're trying to make sure that the actions that the federal agencies are putting forward are not inconsistent, but if there are, we're trying, I can say that. And if you have some examples you want to throw my direction, I'm happy to look into them. I'm not sure what I can produce, but I'm happy to look into them.
Oh, yeah, I'll definitely reach out to you in the future for sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody, before Tony starts in with his many questions?
No, I am not going to ask many questions. I'm serious. I'm staying in my lane and really just wanted to mostly thank, this is really extremely helpful because, as you said, just describing the lines is sometimes not as helpful as really understanding kind of what the objectives are. So really learned a lot and look forward to digging into it. It's just a little sort of sidebar question a little bit. I saw that Jessica Gravis has come over as a senior advisor.
She did.
How is she fitting into this whole portfolio? She has been certainly a great leader in this area for a long time. So I would be interested in where she's fitting into this equation.
She will be working at the NOAA level to coordinate all these efforts. She's working in coordination with a woman named Renee Stone, whose task is supposed to look across all the various funding opportunities in NOAA and make sure that they are consistent. So we are delighted that Jessica has joined us.
Yeah, she's great. So good. Congratulations on that. So again, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Really.
That was a softball question, Tony, but that doesn't mean I want another one from you.
Yeah, no more. No more.
Does anybody else maybe want to ask a question before we move on? I don't see any in the chat. Feel free to come off mute if you do. I see lots of gratitude, Darlene. You know that, what was it? Flatter your agency.
Flatter thunder, right? I thought it was about as clever as I could get, but I thought it was valuable.
I see Adriana has, maybe she wants to flatter you personally in words.
Oh, absolutely. I'm happy to flatter you, Darlene, and thanks for the comments. I guess you mentioned, I think rightly so, but one of the challenges is figuring out which of these contests your project is best suited for. Does NOAA have any quick guide or questionnaire, or fact sheet, decision tree? If not, could I encourage you to create one just to help everybody navigate?
So we do have a web page that has all our information up there in the bipartisan infrastructure law that has all these various funding opportunities identified in them. I don't think that I'm not sure it's going to get as far as you want to go, but we're trying to articulate what the purposes of them are, what the windows are, who's eligible. We're trying to make sure that that's available to people, because I think, but part of the problem is you really have to read in a little bit to understand what the funding opportunities are. Sorry. I mean, I think what you're asking for is something we'd love to do in the spare hours at midnight. We'd be happy to dive in, but we're
totally understood.
Yeah, we'd like to help navigate people.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, maybe if there's that one-stop shop available, there's a translation piece that we could tackle at the regional level to help each other out, maybe within the context of CRC or some of our other collaborative efforts.
Right.
And
Thanks.
thanks to Amanda, thank you. And thanks to Amanda, there is a question in the Q&A, which I didn't even know we had set up. So I'm going to read it to you. For the CRRC grant funding opportunity, where does NOAA stand on projects for large-scale Phragmites removal for coastal restoration? Competitive? Question mark.
Where do we stand on that? My reaction is I don't think we have any objection to it, but I think you need to look at all the priorities that we have for the CRRC. There are 4 priorities, and it might not fit. Large scale eradication may not accomplish what you want to for things like risk reduction, engage and equity. So just make sure you look at it and recognize that we are looking to accomplish all 4 of those objectives. So I'm not going to give you a position on Phragmites because Jesse Murray may have a comment on Phragmites. I can't give you that, but I think in terms of this funding competition, I'm not sure it addresses all the priorities we're looking for.
All right. Thank you, Darlene.
I'm so glad I waited. I didn't do this a couple months ago. I wouldn't have been able to say anything.
Yes, this was fantastic. But we are going to move on. We're going to have a few updates from some of our partners. And before I get while you stop sharing your screen, I am going to ask, actually, I think Terry Doss is going to give us our first update from the New Jersey Sports Exit. I apologize. Terry, fix me. SEA, I know that. Ooh.
New Jersey Sports and Exposition Authority.
It was the and that I was missing. I had all the right words, but they weren't making sense. It was the and I was missing. Thank you. Terry, we can hear you now.
And can you see my screen?
We can, yes.
All right, excellent. And I am with the Meadowlands Research and Restoration Institute, which is the scientific arm for NJCRC. So it helps people to make more sense of who we are. And I was saying we're the Forgotten Coast, but apparently that's already Delaware Bay's tagline. So I'll just say we're the unknown coast because we are in the Piedmont physiographic province, not in the coastal province, but because of all the different man-made disturbances over time, we are a coastal region area. So we're often forgotten, but I just want to give a couple quick updates on what's going on. I think I might have mentioned at a past meeting that we were going to start using autonomous recording units to try to find some of our more cryptic species. And we have been using them over the past couple months, and we've been really successful. We found in the spring Atlantic coast leopard frogs in almost all of our small freshwater ponded areas, which no longer have any federal protection at this point, but I'll talk about that in a second. So we have a lot of Atlantic coast leopard frog, which hasn't really been seen out here in the last 8 or 10 years. So that's really exciting to find. We have salt marsh sparrow. We have 4 different nests that we've located just on one site. It's been a real priority for us. And so we're very excited to say that they are still here in the Meadowlands, and we're looking to see more, and that'll be a priority in the coming years. And we've already detected tricolored bat throughout a bunch of our areas just in the last 2 to 3 weeks. So we're very excited about this. If anyone wants to learn more about how we're using these, let us know. We're working closely with others that use these both in the state and around the region, but great results. Also, we have a floating lease turn island that I think I talked about. On the upper left, you can see some of the decoys that were made for us by our volunteers. And we have them out on the island. We haven't gotten any lease turns yet, but we have gotten some predators that are fooled by our decoys. So you can see as you move along here that he was very convinced, and he even came back a couple days later to try again to get these guys. But You also see the shelters. So hopefully if we do attract least terns, they'll have these shelters to hide from their predators. But we're about to put a call box out. We may be too late for this season to get any least terns nesting, but we'll be working on it. And I just want to shout out Al Majeski had given me some insight on which cameras they've been using for this remote monitoring, and that's what we're using. So if anyone needs any information on the remote camera monitoring, this is completely running on batteries with no Wi-Fi, so it's pretty cool stuff. I wanted to talk about real quickly Sawmill Creek Wildlife Management Area. This is an 800-acre site, which you can see by these photos. We're quickly losing our salt marshes. They've been eroding over time, but we've really seen the pace increasing. And this has been the focus of a study that we're doing under an EPA wetland program development grant. And we've developed a whole hydrodynamic model, which has been giving us amazing results, looking at velocities and water movement and how they're affecting our marshes and mudflats. And so we're real interested in pursuing grant opportunities to restore these marshes. And thank you, Darlene, for all that information on NOAA opportunities. So we're looking for partners. We're a very small staff, but we're taking on a lot of work, and we definitely need some help with some of our restoration opportunities. But this is 800 acres surrounded by New Jersey Turnpike and the soon-to-be Essex Hudson Greenway, the new New Jersey State Park. So a lot of opportunities to get people involved with marsh restoration at a front row seat. And this is how much we've lost at Sawmill over the last 90 years or so. And again, just to remind you, we're losing it rapidly. These photos were taken just last week when we were out in the field. And lastly, I mentioned real quickly the federal protection of some of our wetlands. In the Meadowlands, we are not part of the state assumption under the Clean Water Section 404. So all those areas in red are behind tidal barriers and are no longer connected according to the latest Supreme Court ruling under Sackett versus EPA. It's unknown what protections will be provided to these areas. We're working with DEP and are waiting for more information from EPA and the Corps. But you can see we are greatly affected at this point in time. These areas have no wetland protections on them at the state or federal level. And yet we're supporting a lot of endangered species in these areas. So anyway, with that, I will stop sharing. But yeah, I'm happy to talk with anyone about any of these issues at length at another time. But thank you for listening for now.
Thank you so much, Terry. I mean, it's always good to hear what's happening up in that area of our state. I do need to acknowledge that we are just about at 2:30, and we appreciate everybody who has been here for the full hour and a half. We are going to keep going and let our other partners give some updates. So if you were able to stay and hear for a few more minutes, we've probably got about 5 to 10 more minutes of updates to get through. But if not, totally appreciate everyone that's here, and we'll be sending out minutes and updates. But if you're able, Nick Brown is going to take it up next and give us an update on what ACT Engineering is doing.
Thank you, Laura. So we've been working with our coastal municipalities and clients on a bunch of different cool projects that include dredging, marsh restoration and protection projects, and then some flood adaptation projects as well. And then we have a new paper that recently came out in Shore and Beach on coastal flooding challenges, where we use Ocean City as a case study. And that provides some great resources for coastal managers on how to plan for long-term adaptation strategies and mitigation. And we're working on a bunch of other papers that are going to be coming out along the Jersey Shore here to try and add to the scientific body of literature that include marsh papers along with blue and green carbon.
Excellent. Thank you, Nick. Next up, Al Majeski. If he's on, I'm now thinking I didn't see him. I don't know if Tim wants to jump in with any updates from ALS.
I know Tim was here before.
Yeah. Tim, you're muted if you
I think Al is one of those folks frantically working on the completion of his application. Darlene's pending. So we are continuing work. We just received some funding from the Restore America's Estuaries to continue our oyster reef resiliency work down in the Delaware Bay. Kind of to Darlene's point, it builds on the investments that NIFWIF and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service have made in the horseshoe crab and migratory shorebird habitat restoration that's been done. Continuing to work on resiliency projects in partnership with municipalities in Seaside Park and in Little Egg Harbor Township, or Little Egg Harbor down in Osborne Island. And we recently started some work up in Hoboken in collaboration with them, trying to use some and introduce some nature-based approaches to resiliency in Weehawken Cove, which is really exciting because most of you know, I think Hoboken is a real leader on the dry side work in terms of resiliency and living with water. So we're really excited about that partnership. I think that's about it for the moment. So, lastly, I guess, yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, just lastly, because I don't know whether Al will report on this or not, but we did receive funding from the DEP under the Reggie grant to do a project down in the mouth of the Morris River, which is not only going to expand the tidal marshes there for their carbon sequestration values through restoration, but also add resiliency to one of the focal areas for offshore support vessels and the oyster fleet that's home ported in Bivalve. And that builds on, I think, about an $8 million investment that was made by NIFWIF, as well as the state of New Jersey through direct appropriation a couple of years. So that's going to be a really big project. It still has more to do, but I think it'll be a good case study in how to do a lot of these practices at scale, because it is about 400 acres altogether when it gets done.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tim, for sharing. David Steinman up next.
Yeah. Hi, Laura. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi. I just wanted to give a quick update on a few new projects we're working on in New Jersey's coastal zone that, you know, everyone on this call probably could potentially be interested in. The first is being we're up in the process of updating the soil mapping in the tidal marsh areas in Ocean County with plans to expand throughout the state. So this new updated mapping will give, you know, an accurate understanding of the soils present in the marshes, which, you know, could be used to evaluate areas for carbon sequestration, marsh restoration projects, erosional properties, and I think there's 10 or so coastal soil interpretations. The second project is a subaqueous soil survey of Great Bay and Mullica River that will join with the existing Barnegat Bay survey. We're in the process of mapping the soils and the bay bottom to provide soil suitability interpretations for things like aquaculture habitat production, eelgrass restoration, dredge material types, CMEX bottom classifications, and more. So I just wanted to, you know, give everyone a quick update to these, you know, it's just another tool in your toolbox when planning any projects or understanding the ecosystem underneath your feet. So all this data can be found on Web Soil Survey, and these new projects will be published in October. So if anybody's interested in the data or want to, you know, learn more, feel free to contact me. I can put my email in the chat.
That would be awesome.
Thank you.
So many great things happening, all of our partners. I have two more that I think we're going to add to our list. Lisa Archibald from Office of Planning Advocacy is going to give a quick update.
Of state planning, and we are the technical office for the State Planning Commission. We are starting to think about updating our state plan, that 2001 development plan. We're And the preliminary of it, we have an MOU with Rutgers to do the infrastructure needs assessment. And we are also in the process of getting initial comments with the county planners. First, we also have, we're starting to create the interested parties list. So if anyone would like to be getting updates about where we are and things that we're coming up, like public meetings, please send me an email. We'll get you on that list. That's all. Thank you.
Excellent. Lisa and David, if you both want to drop your emails in the chat really quickly as well, if people want to grab them. I think on that note, unless anybody else wants to give a quick update, I think we are made it through everything. Just a few minutes late. Apologies to everyone. I don't know if Ed or Tim have any final words they want to say, or we can just let you all go back to your
No,
day.
we
and kicking
appreciate
off summer.
everybody. Laurie did a great job hosting and moderating this meeting today. And I think there was a tremendous amount of valuable and useful information that was disseminated to all our partners. And that was our mission. So I want to thank everybody. And I think Darlene did a great job without Tony's assistance letting everybody know the monies that are available, the programs that they're initiating, and most importantly, those fine little tips that put your proposal at the top of the list to be funded. Thank you.
Tim, I see you off mute too.
I'll just say, great job. It's always really exciting to hear what's going on and the fact that everybody's talking together about collaborating on it. Darlene, thank you very much for showing up and sharing your insights as always. And everybody have a wonderful Independence Day.
Absolutely. Same. Thank you all so much. And we'll look forward to seeing you in 6 months, if not sooner.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Happy 4th.